Welcome to our continuing series on the new music, Part 18. These are the visions of a friend of mine in the Om Choir, some of the most beautiful and powerful that I have seen. And I welcome you all to send me your experiences as well. His visions began many years ago in France. And, I imagine this is from the 1990s that he started having visions in the ashram. And this is from 2005 to 2006. 1. The dancers. I can remember very clearly the movement of these dancers. Actually, they were not touching any ground. It was short, and they were just passing very smoothly in a totally synchronized way. They gave a little feeling of these Egyptian drawings and paintings on the walls. I remember that they came because they were attracted to the music. It is as if they were dancing before, but I could not see them. There was something very quiet and harmonious. They were two men and very lightly dressed. It is as if we had this atmosphere of Om choir music, and they passed through the atmosphere of the music and just disappeared in a matter of a few seconds. 2. The King and Queen. They were kneeling and praying on their knees, and it was a kind of worship. What they were worshiping, I felt, was our music, was bringing down of the new creation, was what our music was bringing down of the new creation. I saw them from a side angle, and I could see a little bit of their expression. It was very solemn. The atmosphere was one of a sanctuary, and it gave me the impression that the meaning of this scene was that those who have the highest power were very humbly welcoming and almost surrendering to the music. It was definitely the music that they were worshiping. There were golden shades in their clothes, and there was a very soft light, like candlelight. 3. The angels. The angels were a very pleasant feeling, a very joyful feeling. There were several of them floating above the Om choir. They were very young, childlike. Their arms and hands were very sweet and had this puffy feeling, like little children. They were most happy, very naturally happy. And it was a kind of game for them with long golden threads. With the golden threads, it looked like they were fishing, and they were most probably giving us something. And they were very friendly and playing with the Om choir in a very friendly and affectionate way. I think there were about 6 or 7. By fishing, they were sort of taking out the music that we have inside, but it was nothing very serious or impressive. It was just very peacefully joyful. They were definitely taking something out of us. 4. The golden horse. He was not fully in the air, cabré, but with his front legs in the air, alive, but also very much giving the feeling of a statue. Definitely golden, wonderful bright gold, and it gave a feeling of a big power, very benevolent, but that should not be disturbed because it could have reactions. I had to be quiet with that presence. It was very good, but you had the feeling that it could react as when you touch a horse, a feeling of a little wildness, but very, very still. In connection with the music, I felt that it was a movement forward for our choir, a little like the painting of Watteau of Napoleon on the bridge. He was definitely moving upward and forward, but his hind legs were still in contact with the ground. 5. The bubble atmosphere. There was a kind of atmosphere that was moving from one to the other. It was very subtle, like a bubble, a little bigger than a basketball, and I remember it moving to X and I think through people. It was not stopped by our bodies, and it was passing through us, and I felt very strong at that moment that it was connected with the proximity of the samadhi, that it was almost sent from there. I can't say that it was music, but it had a very subtle sound. Nothing which could disturb the music, but still carrying the quality of a sound. My memory is that it didn't touch all of the people, but about half the circle of the Om choir. And when I became aware of it, it was because I felt it was leaving me. It was probably just something that touched me because I felt comfortable, as I do in the Om choir, and it was leaving me and going to others. But I especially remember that form going to Y. I felt something a little similar in the choir in Orville. 6. The boat and the child. The boat was a mid-sized sailboat, about 15 to 20 meters long, and the sails were pure white, and there were 3 wooden masts. It was near a rocky shore facing the sea, ready to sail forward toward the sea. I saw it from a little upward position, like 20 or 30 meters high, and the water was a transparent dark blue with some shades of a lighter blue. The water gave the impression of a very big transparency and purity. This boat gave an impression of joy, and moreover, it was definitely starting and it was welcoming any of us who wanted to start a totally new kind of trip. It was definitely there for the people of the Om choir and all those who sincerely give themselves to the new music were naturally welcomed on board. At that point, I had a wonderful inner feeling that I felt that the trip that was about to start, where we would not have 2 moments, which would be the same. Everything would be new at each moment as a constant new creation. 7. The child. Note, although the boat and the child were seen in the same evening's experience, I have separated them since they are so unique. That was short, but very interesting. The child was between 1 and 2 years old. I can't say if it was a boy or a girl. Sometimes I feel it was a boy, but it doesn't matter. He was not Indian because the skin was white. The face was very beautiful, with very large eyes, with much consciousness in his wide open eyes. The child was standing between 2 chairs of the Om choir participants, staring very quietly, no smile, but with a very peaceful and serene expression, and highly fascinated by what was happening in the circle of music. Here again, the child was attracted to the new music, fascinated by what was happening in that little circle of the Om choir. The Om choir in Oroville, I remember one time. It is the time when afterwards we spoke with X. He was smiling, and it is on that day he said that he felt something so precise was happening to the choir. The sounds and the harmonies and the chords were so clear and neat. I felt that there was probably more power than in the ashram. There is much more energy pushed into the expression of beauty in Oroville, and that most probably has an impact on our choir. I think it is in the atmosphere of Oroville. Do you remember when I told you one day I was really going somewhere else, and you, Narad, remember that my voice was unusually low, like a bass tone that I normally don't have? And on that day, I know that for a few minutes while singing, it was the time when I was really mostly somewhere else. Then it stopped, and musically the result was that low tone. Also, one day, I felt a big freedom of vocal expression, and I saw several places available for my voice to go to, and I could choose. All these possibilities were working, and it was a kind of very happy sense of freedom to just be able to create the next sound in complete freedom of choice. Another thing is something which several people mentioned. It is the surprise that we have sometimes that a particular sound was coming from us, and then we realize, oh, that music was coming from me? Then there is the time when X came for his last time and something new happened. The music was really wonderful at some moments, and there was a kind of spiritual atmosphere that was created. There was a texture of peace and something very pure which was there. That was a very special moment. One thing I remember especially is the quality of some meditations that I had with the Om choir, because I feel the music prepares us very powerfully for intense meditation. There is a feeling of recollection, which is not even easy to do, which we don't have to do. By chanting, we create a certain atmosphere of purity, and this recollection just happens.